Miccoli, Grosso, Dybala, Pastore, Tony, all of these players that we loved throughout our Calcio lives, and we are here to talk about the club that we associate with all of them. Welcome to the Anglo-Italian pod. As always, my name's Rory. I'm joined by my very good friend Adam, and this week from Rosanero, England, we have Andrea. Andrea, how are we doing, man?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me.
No, pleasure to have you on. We're excited to talk about Palermo, the best representatives from Sicily, right? We'll be talking about how their season's going and taking a deeper look at Serie B in general. But importantly, Adam, how are you doing?
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much. As you can see, a bit more warmer attire is fair to say.
I'm liking the Bologna jacket, man. It's a new addition.
Yeah, thank you. Definitely need it in these chillier conditions in the UK. It's going very Arctic here, unlike your very self in Milan. I mean, it's a bit more warmer, right, down there?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I've been hiding in the house the entire weekend, basically just watching replays of the Troy Parrott goal for the last 24 hours. But I have just looked up long enough to notice that it's not too bad outside. But it is time to talk about Serie B, and we're going to start. Andrea, let's do it. You run a Palermo UK Twitter page. You have a podcast. How did you come to be a Palermo fan? I'm assuming with the name Andrea, it's family ties, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, my dad's from Palermo. He got me into football. It was around the mid-2000s. I started watching football. I remember the first player he pointed out to me was Edinson Cavani. So it was a pretty good place to start. Yeah, we had a pretty good team back then. He was playing alongside Miccoli, so I remember that partnership up front. It was a very, very good team. We were in Europe back then. It was looking really different. And I remember the first season that I watched was the season where Juventus were in Serie B because of the Calciopoli scandal.
Oh, what a time to be alive! What a time to be alive!
Yeah. I mean, people joke that it's like their ideal Serie A. Yeah. I remember seeing a post about that earlier this year, without Juventus. And the point was that Juventus weren't there, but I took from that, I saw a map of all these Italian teams, and there were 3 Sicilian teams in Serie A back then. It was Palermo, Catania, and Messina. And now we're scattered amongst Serie B, Serie C. It's wild to see that there were 3 Sicilian teams at it back then, and now it's just the level has dropped so much. But hopefully Palermo can be the representatives of Sicily in Serie A again, and Catania are doing well as well. They're looking like they're going to get promoted up to Serie B, so the future looks bright for Sicily.
Well, it's a good time at the moment as well for Palermo. Obviously part of the City Group. There's a bit of kind of organisation, a bit of excitement around the club, right? Does it feel like there's been a few rebirths of Palermo, but does it feel like this is a more promising one?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with the whole City Group thing, I have mixed feelings because generally I'm not a huge fan of multi-club ownership.
Yeah.
I don't really like that as a concept. But that being said, I've seen Palermo struggle so much over the years, especially financially. I've seen us go from almost being in the Serie B playoff final to straight away being in Serie D and having to climb back up, and we're still not all the way back up yet.
Yeah.
So having that financial stability is a good thing, but at the same time, what I don't want is for us to have another talent like Paulo Dybala and see him go straight to Man City. That would be really upsetting. And it's happened with other CFG clubs.
Yeah, well, absolutely. You can talk to Girona and the current state they're in now. I can understand. I can understand the trepidation. But let's talk about this season so far. At the moment, you find yourself in 6th place, 5 wins, 4 draws, fairly solid defence, but not scoring many goals. Has that been where the main issues have been so far?
Yeah, that's been the biggest problem for us this season. It's been really surprising to say that because in the last few years since we've been back in Serie B, we've had no issue scoring goals. Generally, throughout our history, we're quite an attacking, goal-scoring team, even when we're not playing very well. Recently, I mean, in the last few years, our defence has been the main issue. This season, we've got it right. Like, the defence is really good. We've got a solid foundation to build on. But I would think as well, with someone like Inzaghi, who's one of the best strikers from my childhood, we would have no issue scoring goals. He knows how to score goals, how to be a poacher, and put players in the right positions. But it's been a real problem for us this season, getting the most out of our attackers. I think we've only scored more than 2 goals in one game, and it was the 5-0 win the other week against Pescara. And at that point, I thought, okay, finally our attacks clicked. And then in our next game, our most recent game, against Juve Stabia, we didn't score a goal. We lost 1-0. So it's been really frustrating so far. It's the reason why we're not at the top of the league.
Do you think, is this down to the approach from Inzaghi? Do you think it's the players learning his system? And what do you think these issues are coming from?
Well, there's been a couple of changes in the system. I still feel like we're one of the few teams who really hasn't figured out how we play yet, what our identity is under this manager. I mean, we've seen a lot of new managers come in, but all these other teams now, they have an identity. They've got a way that they play, and I'm still not that sure how we play at the moment. It's a bit like the Italian national team recently, changing everything. Almost with every game. I mean, we've switched from a 3-4-2-1 to a 3-5-2, and we've had varying levels of success as the weeks go by. But I wouldn't say I know a definite starting 11 and a definite formation that we should play to get the best out of our players. It's all still being figured out, really.
So for you, which players and which system do you think has shown the most promise or the most kind of excitement so far this season?
I think so far, the 3-5-2 has been best for us. The issue I have with the way we've played the 3-5-2 so far is most of the time we haven't played an attacking midfielder in the 3-5-2, so the strikers get left a bit isolated. We only have really one true attacking midfielder in the squad, which is Antonio Palumbo, and he's played the last couple of games that we've played 3-5-2. Last game it didn't work so well. Against Pescara it worked very well. He was very creative in that game, and we scored a lot of goals. But before the Pescara game, we didn't play a 3-5-2 with our only attacking midfielder. We had three sort of box-to-box or holding midfielders, and the two strikers were left isolated. So I think that's contributed to a big part of our attacking issues this season. And I've been saying in January, we need one or two more attacking midfielders so we can really reinforce that 3-5-2 and play that way and make sure that the strikers have the right kind of support.
Because Inzaghi has a bit of pedigree in this league, right? He's won it. He's won it once, and it feels like he kind of knows his way around the league. Is it about him getting a bit more financial support then, or do you think it's just about him making more out of the resources he has?
I think the financial support is there. That's not been under question. The main thing is just how he's using it, signing the right kinds of players, filling the right kinds of positions. Because we did have a very good transfer window, among the best in the league over the summer. But there were some positions that were kind of missing, a bit left out. And it left a few doubts, especially with our lack of attacking midfielders. There was also a centre-back that we had to loan out for personal reasons, Giacomo Magnani, and he wasn't replaced. So as good as our defence has been, there's still some gaps in the squad that really do need to be filled in January.
Because there's quite a lot of experience from the league you brought in. As you said, if we look at that transfer window, you brought in the likes of Jesse Joronen, who we've known from his days in Venezia as well, Emmanuel Ghiazzi from Empoli, a bit of a pod favourite. I always quite liked him as a player and picked him up in Fantacalcio just on the off chance. He always popped up with the odd goal. And Berezinski as well, right? Like, these are players that have got a lot of Serie A experience. This is a squad that clearly has been built to get Palermo back in Serie A, right?
That's right. And I think a lot of the players that especially the players that we've brought in 2025 in last summer and in the January transfer window last season, I think they're players that will stay. A lot of the recent arrivals are players that have, some of them, over 200 games in Serie A. Like, it's ridiculous. We've got some players that have absolutely no right to be in Serie B, especially Joel Poyampalo. Like, he is, he should not be in Serie B at all. He's clearly a Serie A level striker, and we have several players of that quality now. And it's why we should be really looking at automatic promotion and not sitting in the middle of the playoff positions, which we are at the moment.
It's kind of one of the great mysteries, isn't it, Poyampalo? Because he was amazing at Venezia as well. And obviously, when you go out and sign him, you think, right, this is the guy that's going to take us up. Like, have you seen enough from him where you're thinking he is obviously that level above, but you're looking at him and going, right, this guy can get us over the line? Like, has he been hitting that form this season?
This season, yeah. I mean, he's had a bit of a drop-off recently. I mean, it happens to every striker where you go through a bit of a goal drought. Not entirely his fault as well, as I've said. You know, the lack of a creative midfielder behind him really does hurt him. But yeah, I mean, he's our top scorer so far this season. He's got the most GA for us with, I believe it's 4 goals and 3 assists. So it's not a bad return for, less than halfway through the season. And I mean, when he joined in January, all the signings that we made in that window really raised the level of the squad. And he arguably did the most. I mean, he scored, I believe it was 8 goals in his first 9 games. He was almost scoring every week. Like, it was amazing. The way things were going then under Dionisi, we were really struggling, and we were dropping away from the playoff positions. We were not too far from automatic relegation at the time when the January transfer window came around. And then we signed Poyampalo, we signed Aldero, who's now playing for Cremonese in goal, and we signed Magnani, who I mentioned. And yeah, they raised the level so much we were able to qualify for the playoffs. And I mean, if you look at us over the course of last season, we arguably didn't deserve to be in the playoffs at all. But players like Poyampalo really raised the level and took us to that level.
Andrea, I've got a question around who do you think has been the best team that you've come across so far this season? Because I'm looking at your fixtures so far and it feels like at the moment maybe you're going into a better period with your fixtures because you've played a lot of the teams that are kind of in the mix right now. So has any of the teams that you've played so far stood out? Or because it seems on the basis of the paper in terms of results, it's been fairly close. You know, a lot of the results against the likes of Venezia, for example, Cesena, have all been draws. So it feels like it's a positive, but do you reflect on that being the case?
Yeah, it has been a tough run of games, especially early in the season. We had to play a lot of the top teams, so first place kept changing like every week. I mean, the toughest game we've had results-wise would be against Monza. And the squad that they have, I mean, we're talking about players who have no right to be in Serie B. I've seen Keita Balde, who I saw tearing up Serie A for Lazio years ago. Matteo Pessina, who won the Euros and scored 2 goals in that tournament. Like it's mad to see him play in Serie B. They've got several good players. Danny Motta, to name another.
Yeah, exactly.
Seeing them play against us, I mean, it's clearly a team that's built for Serie A and ready to be back there. I think they're going to bounce straight back up into Serie A. I think the biggest surprise for me so far, though, has been Modena. They're a team, at least since we've been back in Serie B, they've been sort of mid-table. They don't look like they're going to even achieve playoffs, or they don't look like they're going to get relegated. But this season they've been one of the best teams. And when we played them, I mean, I was actually in Palermo for our home game against Modena, and I saw it in person, and they really did look like a team that's ready for Serie A, which I never would have expected from Modena.
It's weird because they've got Sottil in charge, right? He's the manager over there, and we know him from his kind of Udinese days and a few underwhelming stints in Serie A recently, but it feels like he's really getting something out of this Modena team. As you said, they've been floating around mid-table, 10th, 12th, 10th, and then boom, like now again, I don't know if they've played many of the top, like it's still early days, but it's definitely a promising sign for them. Like, do you think they have the longevity? Obviously, Glozzi is getting a lot of the headlines at the moment. Like, do you feel like they've got the staying power?
Well, I spoke about this probably just over a month ago, and I said I know they're first at the moment, but I think they're going to drop off. I don't think they've got the quality in their squad to stay consistent, but so far, I mean, they've dropped off a little bit. They're in second place, but they've been, for the most part, proving me wrong. I think they might just go all the way and get promoted this season. I think they will be one of the 3 teams to go up, hopefully alongside us.
It's been a very long time since they've been in Serie A Modena. I know they've been there before, but it's been a very, very long time since that happened. I think it's interesting with Monza because I think their squad now could be better than the squad they had in Serie A last year. Like, it really feels like there's a lot more quality. Regular listeners to the pod, I'm going to, because I never miss on an opportunity to pat myself on the back, but they have the goalkeeper, Davide Tiam, and I've been shouting him out for years. And he really, I think he's got the most clean sheets in the league so far. He seems to be doing well again. Is he impressing again? Am I going to finally see him in Serie A? I hope I get to see him in Serie A.
Yeah, I think he'll get there. I mean, Monza, I believe they're top of the league at the moment, aren't they? They've been incredible. I mean, they didn't start very well. It was a bit strange to see, but after that sort of initial adjustment period, they've been really showing their class. And yeah, I think they are probably going to go all the way this season.
And if we look a bit down towards, just a little bit down, not too far down, but towards the playoff picture that you're kind of involved in at the moment, we've got teams like Cesena, as we've kind of mentioned, Frosinone, Venezia, yourself, Juve Stabia, Reggiana, Avellino, even Catanzaro, Canadese, all of these teams are in touching distance. Now, every year we know, obviously I'm wearing my Bardi shirt just out of respect. We used to trouble the playoffs, not so much anymore, but from paying attention, I know how hectic it can always be, those playoffs towards the end of the season. Are there any of those teams that you have impressed you the most so far this season, where you're thinking they're going to be a real competition? I think Cesena have been there and thereabouts the last couple of years, and maybe they've taken a step.
Yeah, I mean, Cesena was a tough game for us. I remember when we played them. There's also Venezia. I mean, they were behind. We were the favourites to win the league at the start of the season, and Venezia were second favourites. Now we're sitting in 5th and 6th. But they were very good as well when we played them. A very tough game. There's been a few teams that we've faced this season where I think this team looks ready for Serie A. And Venezia and maybe Cesena as well. They really showed a lot of quality. I remember early on, they were the two most difficult games that we played, Venezia and Cesena. So, anything could happen. It's really tough to say who's going to win the league this season. There's not really one team that's been the clear best so far. So really, anything could happen. Any of those teams in the playoff positions could be first in a month or two. We don't know.
So if you want to take us around the league a little bit, who are the players that are catching the headlines so far? I know it's kind of 12 games in. Who are the players beyond like Gliozzi at Modena? Who are the players that people are most excited about? I know that at Palermo you have one yourself, son of legend Corona, who people are quite excited by. But we'll talk about Corona shortly. Are there any other players around the league that you've been like quietly impressed by?
Well, there's Andrea Adorante. He had a good season last year. And now he scored a few goals for Venezia. I believe he's got 4 goals now. He did great things with Juve Stabia last season. In his first full season in Serie B as well. He was in Serie C before with, I believe it was Triestina. But for someone to score, I believe it was 17 goals last season in his first full season in Serie B, it's tough. It's not easy. And now he's moved, having to get used to a new set of players. And he scored 4 goals already. So I would say, not just because we share the same first name, but Andrea Adorante, he's really got my eye this season.
Nice. And let's talk about Corona then in your team. Obviously, son of club legend. How excited are people about this guy? Obviously, if you've been lucky enough, or if you haven't yet, you should check out the Copper 90 documentary that was recently released on Palermo. As good as the stuff they always produce. How excited are people about him? It seemed like they made him quite a big focus of that documentary.
Yeah, this is his first full season in Serie B. He's not got that much game time so far, being a backup behind Poyampalo in that striker position. He was out on loan last season to Pontedera, did really well in Serie C, almost got them promoted as well, ended up scoring in the playoffs as well. Season before, he was with our Primavera team, have scored about 20 goals. So there's clearly been a steady improvement with him. I'd like to see him get more minutes as well. Touch wood, hopefully Poyampalo doesn't get injured or anything like that. But for him to have that kind of chance to break into the squad and show his quality, it would be great for him. The times that he has played, he started in our last Coppa Italia match against Udinese. And for someone who's playing his first game against the Serie A team, he looked like a complete striker. Like he did everything right. He made a lot of correct decisions, the passing, his first touch, just the decisions he makes for a young player. I think he is very promising. And I think, Palermo have come out with so many great young players who seem to appear from nowhere. I think Giacomo Corona will be the next one for Palermo. I think if we can get up to Serie A soon and he can get some good minutes in, some good experience and really show his class, I think he's really going to come into his own soon.
It'll be exciting to see where this goes for him because I think we all want to see that rise of Sicilian football. Again, Palermo having a hometown player is a beautiful thing to see. So Adam, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Andrea actually around, I suppose this season is the off to this assumption, but generally when Serie A teams go down a league, they always find it a struggle to sometimes even stay up in Serie B. So this season seems to be the exception given the successes of Monza and Venezia and to an extent Empoli because they've sold most of their team. So therefore they're having to rely on the youngsters at the moment. But obviously when you look at the kind of league, it's made up of previous like bigger clubs that have dominated Serie A. The likes of Sampdoria, the likes of Spezia have been in there and out there. Why do you think those clubs in particular have struggled this season? Because Spezia were doing so well last season. They had a fantastic record, especially in Serie B, but never got it over the line in the end. Can you kind of allude to maybe factors that have stopped Spezia being as good as they were last season? And obviously Sampdoria, they clearly haven't learned from last season, have they?
No, not at all. Sampdoria were kind of gifted a golden ticket with Brescia falling apart at the end. Yeah, and they were able to secure safety. You mentioned Spezia as well. I think the biggest thing for them is they're missing Pio Esposito a lot. It was great for them last season. And now they don't really have anyone who could score goals. So it can be as simple as that, really. There have been some other significant departures for them, but I think losing your main striker who's scoring all your goals, it would be like us losing Poyampalo. We would be lost. We wouldn't know what to do. But I think since we've been back in Serie B, I have noticed a difference since last time we were there in the late teens, because so many of these big former Italian clubs like Sampdoria,
Yeah.
like Genoa, who have come back up, but were in Serie B when we first came back to Serie B. It shows that these Serie A teams, the fact that they've been dropping off and losing all this quality over the years, and the fact that the league has lost its quality over the decades that I've been watching it, these teams eventually, some of them have to fall down to Serie B, and that's the way it is. That's what makes it so competitive now, because there are these big teams that are trying to get back into Serie A. Sorry, and it's completely different to when I was watching Serie B in the teens. Back then, there were teams that should be in Serie B, teams that are in Serie C and D now. But it shows how much Italian football has generally just dropped off, really. All these big clubs, people are thinking, how are they in Serie B? Especially Sampdoria, who are dead last and have been most of the season. Like, it's insane to see.
There's another stat that kind of backs up how closely aligned a lot of these clubs are in terms of competitiveness, because on average it's 2.32 goals per game as well, which kind of alludes, I suppose, to the quality in this league. Do you feel that is a case in terms of that quality between someone that is probably in the bottom half versus those that in top half are equally matched, or do you feel that there is teams that are maybe more leakier than others in that respect?
I think there's only a couple of teams who look very weak this season, I would say. Outside of Spezia and Sampdoria, I think the league looks very competitive. It's a lot like the Championship, second division in England. It's competitive pretty much top to bottom. Things can change very quickly. I've seen us in relegation, and then a few weeks later we're near the playoffs. That's just the nature of the league. It's very competitive, especially at the top end this season. Like I said, no one knows who's going to win the league. It's going to be a crazy title race all season. So I think there's a lot of quality in the league. I think the Serie B, I mean, it could be as a result of Serie A dropping off a bit, but I think the Serie B has really improved in the last few years. it's when we first got promoted back in 2022, I was thinking this is a completely different league to what I've seen in the few times that we've been in Serie B in my life. It's completely different now. The quality is so much higher, and it's so much more competitive. Like, it is tough to get in Serie A these days.
I think there's a lot of clubs that are relatively sensibly run. Like, there's teams there that you wouldn't expect to be in Serie B. So I look at clubs like Carrarese or Catanzaro or these Avellino. They haven't historically been in Serie B teams, but these are quite well-run, exciting clubs on an upward trajectory. Especially, I think Catanzaro in particular, they came from Serie C, nearly went straight back up again. Like, I think we're seeing a kind of more sensibly run clubs, and then the teams from Serie A are the stupidly run clubs that often have to prevent themselves from doing a double relegation, right? But there's some really exciting clubs within that league, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even some of the new clubs that are coming up, like Pescara, recently not been doing quite as well, but they showed signs early on that they could survive. I mean, I think they've still got around the same amount of goals scored as we do, maybe more. Before the 5-0 that we had against them, they had several more goals scored than us. So they're showing they want to fight for their place. They want to earn their place back in Serie A. That's another team that used to be quite big, Pescara. But then there's Avellino, who have just come up. Bought one of our players, Roberto Insigne, and they've been doing really well. I'm not sure if they're still in the playoffs, but they've been in the mix. It's been really good to see. Virtus Entella as well, who we're playing next. They've been pretty good. I mean, they've got a centre back who scored 5 goals somehow. So it's there's a lot of exciting teams at the moment, and really anything could happen.
So you're telling me there's still hope for Bari, right? There's still hope for Bari to turn it around and get it over the line, right? That's what you're telling me.
Well, I think in Bari's case, any team that has a stadium of 60,000 fans, I think can do well. I think there's potential to do well once you start getting some good form. And the city gets invested back into the team. Having a stadium like the San Nicola alone is a reason why there's potential there for Bari. And they were tough when we played them. It was a tough game. They had a very stubborn defence. It took us a long time to break them down. It took most of the game for us to score our first goal. And yet, Bari, they're always a tough team. It's a tough ground to go to, the San Nicola.
Yeah, I think the issue there is with the ownership and the interest with Napoli and Bari, and do they actually want them to get promoted, etc. But Adam, this isn't going to turn into me moaning about Bari and my heartbreak. We need to focus back on Serie B, right?
Yeah. Definitely. And I suppose we might as well bring on the dreaded question around Italian infrastructure as well, because I feel this is somewhere where me and Rory talk about it quite often, about what the league, Serie A in particular, FIGC should do better. And off the back of the international performance of the Italy national squad, it does seem like a prevalent kind of question to kind of maybe start evoking and poking at what more could be done. Certainly what I feel is that sometimes the younger players don't necessarily seem to have that opportunity sometimes. Do you feel the bigger clubs could do better in terms of getting those prospects to experience maybe more game time in Serie B, as has been shown in the likes of Esposito and his progress at Spezia, for example, last season? But there's been numerous talents that have come out of Serie B, for example, including through Palermo, for example, that have then gone on to progress at a higher level. So do you feel right now is where maybe they should refocus their strategy, is how can they bleed those players or the next gen to kind of be a bit more prosperous in terms of how they develop in terms of their playing careers?
Well, I think the main thing is the fact that all these big Serie A teams have second teams that play in Serie C, and I really don't like that. I see, if you look at, for example, Real Madrid and Barcelona, their second teams play in the second division. And I think that should be the case with these Italian teams. I think, Atalanta, AC Milan, Inter, Atalanta, they Juventus even, they all have these teams in Serie C. I mean, Milan Futuro, they got relegated. They're down in Serie D. I mean, it just shows how useless these projects are. I mean, we don't really see a lot of players coming out of these Serie C teams going straight into Serie A. It does happen. I mean, Nicola Savona would be an example, but it's just rare. It could be so much more frequent if they were playing at a slightly higher level like Serie B. And I think, it goes back to that quote from Mancini, I believe it was a year or two ago, saying if Italy had a Lamine Yamal, he'd be playing in Serie C. And it's very true.
Yeah, it's like spot on. It's so spot on. Like, obviously, I support Arsenal, and my girlfriend saw Max Dowman playing at 15 years old, and it completely blew her mind. I was like, yeah, if that was a 19-year-old in Italy, he'd still be in Serie C. They wouldn't trust him at all. Obviously, this week is just our monthly update on moaning about the Italian national team and the Italian performances. I assume you get relatively invested in the Italian national team. If we're talking about it, how did you feel about Sunday night? Because I turned it on and then kind of wished I hadn't once the second half kicked off at least.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I'm very invested in the Italian national team. I mean, this recent international break, it was going well until half time in the Norway match. I mean, Italy looked like the better team, scored an early goal. I mean, it was 10 minutes in, so they were on track for the 9-0 at one point that they needed, but that obviously didn't happen. I mean, I believe they didn't even have a shot on target in the first half. And once they had their first shot on target, they started putting on the pressure, and Italy just crumbled. And it's, people complain about the players who are in and out of the squad, like Mancini. People were moan a lot about Di Lorenzo, but even some of the players who were supposed to be the best Italian players, Bastoni and Barella, they were terrible.
Yeah.
Especially towards the end of the game, they looked fatigued and just not up for it. And then we've got Chiesa, who never wants to play for Italy anymore. Like, it's ridiculous. There's just so many problems. I don't think you could fit it into one episode.
Yeah, well, honestly, this has been about 10 episodes for us. Just a repeated, recurring nightmare of having... We've tried to avoid talking about it at this point. We're just like, can we just... I don't know, I'm so sick of it. But I think what I expected, at least, from a Gattuso team, right, was a bit of fight, a bit of, grit and a bit of determination. And the way they just folded the second they equalised, it just screamed to me like... And again, like you said, there's so many problems. Sacking Gattuso doesn't solve anything. Like, what do they do into the playoffs now? Like, today I saw that Ireland potentially could get Italy, and I was like, I didn't have that fear in the pit of my stomach that I should do from Italy, right? Like, what do they do from here?
I mean, if anyone needs to be sacked, it's Gravina. I think everyone knows that. But yeah, that's not going to happen for a long time. There's so many issues top to bottom. It really can't be limited to the manager. I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of Gattuso's appointment. I've never really rated him as a manager. He's never really proved himself. But, I mean, you said, he's brought a real fire to the team. There's been some worrying signs, especially the 5-4 win against Israel. But even then, I mean, if we look at some of the previous managers, in that match, I believe Italy would have lost because it was a game where Italy were really put under pressure. They leveled the score 2-3 times in that game. And under Spalletti, under Mancini, under Ventura, even worse, it would have been that team would have just lied down and accepted the draw or even a loss.
And I think, was there also a certain point of, like, another one of the issues? I was listening to the commentators on Rai last night, and they just, towards the end, just went, Norway are just a better team than us. Like, they are just a better team. Like, is there just ultimately not enough talent on the pitch? Like, even if because I think, obviously, we cover Serie A week in, week out, love a lot of these players. I don't want to say bad words about Barella or about Bastoni or whoever, because I think they're very, very good players. But do we have to ultimately admit that the talent levels just aren't where they used to be and other countries have caught up?
Well, it is true that the individual quality of the Italian players is not what it was, even in Euro 2020, only a few years ago. I think the team really lacks a Chiellini type of character, a real leader. Not necessarily a great defender, which he was, but just a leader. I mean, all these players. Like, I'm about to turn 28. Most of these Italian players are younger than me. I'm watching a national team full of people younger than me. It's crazy.
Yeah.
When I'm used to seeing Italy at their best, it's players who are, it's 35-year-old Buffon and Pirlo. That's what I'm used to seeing. Players who have really been there and played in these Champions League finals against the top players. A lot of these Italian players now, they don't have that kind of experience. Some of them barely have experience in Serie A, let alone against the top players around Europe. It really feels like they're part of the way through a rebuild process. And by the time Bastoni and Barella get to their sort of early to mid-30s, I think then maybe in the 2032 Euros, I know it's looking quite far into the future, but I feel like then maybe there'll be some more experience in the team. The team will be at a higher level. But at the moment, it's too inexperienced to really contend with the top teams. And it's hard to say, but Italy just aren't a top team anymore. I wouldn't go. I mean, it's hard to say this because Norway won twice, but I wouldn't call Norway a better team in terms of individual players. I think Italy showed the quality that they have in that first half against Norway. I feel like Italy at full strength would have seen that game out if it was a team of more experienced players. That's a game that Italy definitely could have seen out. But at the moment, because of just the lack of experience, I think it's tough to win games like that. And going to the World Cup, I would say it's going to be really, really difficult for Italy to even make it out the group stage if they get there at all.
Yeah, the playoffs now look like a huge, huge challenge. Sorry, Adam.
I was just going to try and bring it back to Serie B, because as much as the Italian culture is one of the things that we're trying to allude to in terms of that talent pool not maybe generating or coming through, do you feel Serie B necessarily goes against the grain in that respect and promotes younger players through their teams? Because I don't necessarily see it all the time with every team. I wonder if they're going through that safety net of going through experienced pros. We've just spoken with Palermo, with Paolo, for example, being the sole man. Do we feel that this could be an opportunity for Serie B clubs, or is there still that reluctance that you see with teams playing youngsters because it's ingrained in the Italian culture as well?
I mean, you definitely see a good amount of youngsters playing in Serie B, but again, it's nowhere near as much as it should. It goes back to what I said earlier. Under 23 teams from these big teams should be playing alongside the Serie B teams. And you do see a lot of much older players. But I remember not too long ago we were playing against, I believe it was a 37-year-old Jeremy Menez. I didn't even know he was still playing. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I didn't even know he was still playing, and he showed up against us. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's Italian football, especially recently. It's been Serie A has been known as a kind of retirement league. We've seen players like Luka Modric, De Bruyne, going back to Dzeko. People pushing 40 playing in Serie A, and we see it in Serie B as well. So I really think there should be more opportunities for young players. But in Serie B, I think there are some good young players playing, mostly just players who are on loan from Serie A teams. But yeah, it's tough because there should be more young players. We know there should be more young players getting these opportunities, but it's like you said, there is a reluctance at the moment across all teams in all leagues.
We're just going to have to rely on Empoli by the looks of it, I think. They're going to have to be their one.
I was just going to add, to extend this even further, do we feel this is also the case when it comes to coaches and head coaches in the just general Italian system? Because it feels like at the moment, especially when me and Rory speculate about who's the next manager getting sacked in Serie A club, there doesn't seem to be that talent pool of Italian coaches now, and it seems like it's always the same old names that we've been used to in previous years. The likes of Gotti, for example, Luca Gotti, who's been out of a job for God knows how long. It feels like inevitable that he will be brought back to another Serie A club. So do you worry about also that element creeping in a bit, because it doesn't feel like necessarily we're seeing those coaches from a Serie B or below level having those opportunities at a Serie A club, for example?
Yeah, I mean, it's like with young players. A lot of young managers at the moment are in Serie C, where they're having to prove themselves there, slowly moving up through Serie B and Serie A. But I mean, the recent sort of young managers that have been coming through, we saw Thiago Motta have one good season with Bologna and immediately went into a Juventus team that really wasn't built for him at all. It felt like he was kind of set up to fail. There was also Dionisi, who was with Sassuolo.
Yeah.
Did really well with them when they had Scamacca and Raspadori up front. They had a really good season with Fratesi just behind them. It was a really solid team. And then he obviously came to manage us after getting Sassuolo relegated, and that went absolutely terribly. He did not fit us at all. And the fans turned on him, I think, more than I've ever seen our fans turn on any manager. Like the protests towards the end of the season were insane. I remember the ultras holding up a big sign with a cross over his face, and it just said "the end" under it. It was terrible. They were screaming his name on the megaphones like it was ridiculous. I've never seen anything like that. But yeah, I mean, these young managers, it shows that they're getting thrown into projects that don't suit them very much. And we are seeing a lot. You mentioned we get the same sort of names floated around when a big team becomes available. Yeah. Names like Antonio Conte, who are people who have won several trophies but have shown a lot of stubbornness in their system, not willing to change the way they play or fit the team that's given to them. And you can tell in the way that managers like that perform in Europe, where you have to adapt. They fall apart against teams that they're not familiar with.
Are there any of the coaches in Serie B at the moment that you think could be exciting, could be the ones that we should be keeping an eye on? Like, I'm thinking maybe Mignani at Cesena or Bianco at Monza, maybe. Are there any managers there where you think they could be the next one that we hear lots about?
There's Palladino, who I think is doing quite well. I'm a big fan of his. It's tough to say though, because there's so much changing in the Serie B. It's a very competitive league, so it's I mean, it's really hard to say. I mean, look at even Inzaghi. People were saying he's going to be the guy to take Palermo back to Serie A. We're going to win the league, and
he does feel like the Neil Warnock of that league, I have to say. It does come across a bit now. Just to extend that, though, Andrea, obviously we've had ex-players also dabble, the likes of Daniele De Rossi at Spal, for example. We've had Fabio Cannavaro at Benevento as well previously. Do you feel that there could be a pathway for ex-players of that similar ilk? Because it feels like they've had chances, but they've not necessarily succeeded because maybe their philosophies were slightly of that more elite standards. So therefore, it felt like maybe at Serie B or C level, they've not been able to maybe stifle that kind of potential out of those players. Do you feel like there's maybe some kind of hybrid that needs to be achieved with those players that do want to explore that kind of coaching role eventually?
I mean, I think you can say that about a lot of teams. There's a lot of older players who are clearly going to become good managers, but the avenues don't seem to be there for them at the moment. I mean, we mentioned young coaches are all sort of in Serie C at the moment. A lot of Italian coaches, like Fabio Cannavaro, he's had to take several jobs abroad because there aren't any Italian teams that really suit him. So, yeah, it's really difficult at the moment for these sort of young Italian managers to get into it. I mean, the most successful one I've seen recently would be Fabregas, and he's an exception because he was a player manager for a while and he's involved with Kobo very heavily. But there's not much like that these days. And I mean, it's kind of cheating to pick a Spanish manager because they all seem to know everything about football. So it's there's not really an Italian equivalent of that. Someone who's in his early 40s and knows the game that well and can really bring the best out of young players.
I was going to just add maybe Fabio Grosso, though, because obviously he was unlucky with Frosinone when he brought them up first time, and then he got immediately sacked for Eusebio Di Francesco, which I felt was really harsh on the guy. Yeah. And then obviously he got Sassuolo up. Fantastic record, I feel. This was one of the things that we thought was the maybe learning curve for him because he's not the most pragmatic coach in terms of his approach. but he certainly seems to be doing good things so far with Sassuolo this season. I mean, do you feel that there's been some learnings on his part in terms of not only just his spell at Rosanero, but he went to Lyon thereafter, didn't he, as well? So do you feel that that's potentially where Italian coaches have to do, is maybe dabble in that kind of experience elsewhere outside of Italy to maybe help them with their progress as a coach as well?
Yeah, I mean, we see the same with Italian players. I mean, look at Wilfried Gnonto.
Yeah.
Still never played in Serie A. He was having to play, I believe, in the Swiss league before Leeds signed him. And yeah, it's because of the lack of avenues, again, in Italy for these young Italian players and managers. Fabio Grosso being a very good example. I mean, he did very well with Frosinone. That was a team who, like Modena this season, no one expected them to do that well, and they won the league. And yeah, he had to go and have that stint abroad, and then he came back and did exactly the same thing with Sassuolo. It was tough. And I mentioned, I got someone's name wrong. I mentioned Palladino earlier. It was Posanzini who I meant to.
I didn't want to.
But yeah, I think he's doing a very good job with Mantova, another young coach who's doing really well. But again, it's tough for these managers to really break into Serie A. You don't see, I mean, I mentioned Antonio Conte earlier. He was doing really well in the lower leagues, and then Juventus snatched him up and he immediately did really well. You really don't see anything like that these days with the new Italian managers.
Well, fingers crossed for Alberto Aquilani, because he is at Catanzaro, and we can hope maybe he can break through and make that progress. But yeah, just looking through like all the managers, they're in like their 50s, their 60s, they're all like grizzled veterans of Calcio. There's not many young managers getting opportunities there. But Andrea, I think we're going to say thank you, but before we let you go, we're going to kind of put you on the spot with some predictions for the season. We can get you back on before the end of the season to see how your predictions have gone. But if I had to put a gun to your head now, and the two teams that will go up automatically, who are you going for?
I'm going to stick with my guns and say Palermo. I think we are going to get back there. We're not far off at the moment, and we spent a lot of the early season in second place. I think we can get back there, especially with the right reinforcements in January. So I would say Palermo, whether it's first or second, not too sure. At the moment, I think Monza look like the best team in the league. They're very well equipped for Serie A already. I mean, you made the point earlier. They look almost better this season than they did last season. So yeah, I would go with Monza and Palermo.
Nice. And complete punt, but the team to go up through the playoffs?
It won't be Bari.
They have to get in the playoffs first.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take that. I'll be honest.
I would say Venezia. I think they were really impressive when we played against them, as I said. And yeah, I think they've got what it takes to really push for automatic promotion. But yeah, I would like to say that us and Monza would get ahead of them on that.
Nice. And the last one, will Sampdoria stay up or are they going to go down?
No. Won't have to think about that one.
That was a bit easier. That was a bit easier, maybe.
Much easier.
Andrea, thanks for coming on to the pod. That was fantastic. When our listeners and followers want to find you, where can they find you online? Where can they find your content?
So recently changed the name to Rosanero UK. I think it rolls off the tongue a bit better than Rosanero ENG. I've got the Rosanero Network podcast on Spotify, Rosanero UK on Twitter, where I'm most well known, and more recently Instagram as well, where I've been posting highlights of my recent trip to Palermo, amongst other things. So yeah, Rosanero UK.
Perfect. Well, thank you for coming on. Listener, as always, we love you. Thank you for spending your time listening to us. If you want to hear more of us, and face it, why wouldn't you want to hear more of us? You can go over to our Patreon, where for only £2 a month, you can get a bonus podcast every week and a monthly special. £2. Go do it. For now, we'll see you next time. Ciao. A dopo.
Ciao, ciao.